Like most people, I wasn't used to really listening when others were speaking, but rather I'd focus on the gap, the opportunity to speak. But in this video, we're going to look at the fascinating faculty that most of us have to listen. And we're going to explore this most underrated skill from the physical to the metaphysical. Let's look together at what it means to listen. If you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button and invite the bell to notify you every time I upload new content on learning and using English in real life situations. Hello, my name is Tanya Meyer and I'm an English teacher to adults. And in this video, we'll be talking about listening. Stay with me because we're going to zoom in on this amazing ability and explore how quickly and deeply it can transform our English speaking skills. Okay, so let's start by taking a look at the fascinating way in which the ear works, or our ears work. Then let's move on to talk about hearing versus listening. Then we'll talk about how we need to train our mind and the qualities we need to cultivate in order to listen effectively, including curiosity, patience, perseverance, experimenting, these kind of things. And we'll also talk about the interference that we encounter when listening to English and how to deal with it. And then we'll finish with what deep listening is and how it can truly transform your English forever. And if any of what I've said so far resonates with you, then help me with the algorithm. Click like on this video and comment below with the main challenge that you face when listening to English. Okay, so let's get started with how the ear works. Now, most of us have, we've seen this at some point during our education in school. So we kind of know, but looking at this a little bit more deeply is a way of understanding how awesome and amazing it is that we have this ability. So how does it work? Basically, it all starts with our ears here on the outside, and they're shaped in such a way that they receive these waves of sound. And then the wave of sound reaches our ear and is pushed in. And these waves go into our ear. And the first point of contact with the middle ear is the eardrum, it's called. And the eardrum on the other side has 3 bones that work like in a chain. And these are the smallest bones in our body. I'm sure I'm not saying anything new, but if you look at it, it's amazing how this works. It's 3 bones. One is attached to the eardrum, and then the other one oscillates between this, I think it's called the malleus, and it vibrates the next bone, which is called the incus or something like that. Please don't judge me if it's not the right name. And then finally we have another little bone called the stirrup, which is attached to the inner ear. So we have the outer ear finishing at the eardrum, then the middle ear, these 3 tiny bones, and then the inner ear is made up of like a coil. And this coil resembles, a conch in the ocean. That's why they say that if you listen to a conch, then you can hear the ocean. Because I guess it's because of the shape. But basically, what this conch does is that it recognizes the vibrations. And it sends signals to our brain and also to our memory. because, our brain needs to decipher the sounds, and then our memory needs to keep some of these sounds so that it can recognize them later. So it's fascinating how, what we receive is waves of sound, and then what our brain interprets, or what our brain translates after, when we're listening to language, of course, is words. So it translates these vibrations into words, which are then put in a particular order such that our brain can understand the message. Isn't that, well, I don't know about you, but I just think that is fascinating. And the fact also is that we do not use this ability anywhere near as much as we could to make incredible progress with our language skills. Now, why is that? Well, the next step is to understand that our ears are constantly receiving sounds, and a lot of those sounds that reach our ears are irrelevant to us. And so our brain is trained to block a lot of the sounds reaching our ears off, and only to listen to particular things. So we have a very selective way of listening, and that is where a lot of the trouble lies when it comes to trying to improve our English, because we need to work with how our mind has been functioning for a very long time, shutting off sounds more than tuning in. Because if we do tune in to everything, then we could, potentially become overwhelmed. In our daily life, we also need to focus and concentrate. So what do we need to do? We need to train our mind to listen, even when it's sounds that we're unfamiliar with, or sounds that we cannot understand. Because I think this is something that happens a lot when we're listening to English and we're learning it. If we come across something that we don't understand, then our brain just skips over that and tries to pick up what it can. So this is a natural thing that our brain does. It's interested in, the message, and so that is what it will focus on. And if whatever sounds we're receiving, whatever vibration is going on within our ears is something that our brains cannot decipher easily and immediately, then it is more likely than not to just switch off and to think, well, that's a sound that cannot be interpreted, or that is not important right now. So we do need to cultivate some qualities in order for our brain and our ears to collaborate with us when it comes to listening in English. So here's the thing. It isn't going to happen from 1 minute to the next that you decide, oh, you know what? I'm going to start listening now. You can, of course, decide to start listening now. But what I mean is that developing your listening skills requires, to some degree, taking a look at this habit that we have of not listening, because we don't need to listen to everything. So training our mind to listen is something that we need to do if we want to use our listening skills more effectively. And we train our mind to be patient. And by patiently training our mind, we are also cultivating perseverance in ourselves. That is not giving up so easily, not switching off just because we don't understand immediately. We stay with the sound, we stay with it. And even if we don't understand everything, we don't feel disappointed. So there's no judgment. It's just this training that helps us be kinder and gentler and more patient with ourselves as we expose ourselves to these unfamiliar sounds. So one of the interferences that we encounter when we're listening to English, especially once we're already quite advanced, once we're intermediate and above, what happens is that we're able to understand some Englishes and we're definitely not able to understand others. So here, let me just make a little parenthesis, let me just put into brackets that this does not only happen to you. So native speakers find it difficult to understand other native speakers from other places because each English-speaking place has its own accent. And even a small place, say like London has various accents, and some of them are easier to understand than others. So the English accent that everybody raves about, that everybody loves, is called RP, received pronunciation. So that's the clearest English that we can aspire to, but few people speak with RP because most people have their own regional accent. Even London has, for example, estuary English, which is not as easy to follow as RP, and it's spoken in London. And of course, when it comes to the American accent, well, again, there are areas of the US that have, more difficult to follow accents than others. And in Europe, for example, people from the US can go to the UK and be fine in London, but then they travel up to Scotland and they're like, and that is just the nature of the game. If you speak Spanish, for example, and you live in a place like where I'm in Mexico, people in Mexico who travel to South America, to Peru, to Argentina, to Chile, they might think that they follow everything, but I've seen that it's not true. It's not true because Peruvian Spanish has a lot of differences from Mexican Spanish, and the Spanish from Spain is also pronounced quite differently from Latin American Spanish. So, this is just the nature of language, and it doesn't have anything to do with your skill, with your ability to understand. So when it comes to English accents, the Australian accent, the Scottish accent, the Nigerian accent, the Jamaican accent, the American accent, it takes patience, and it takes interest. It takes you being engaged in, okay, so what was that again? Now, it might be the case that you're in a conversation, in a social gathering, and it's not possible for you to ask, what was that again? Like 10 times. So, okay, but you might do your own research later and expose yourself to that accent. So that is accents of native English speakers. But then, of course, there's the accent that people who are not native speakers might have. So, for example, people from Mexico speak English a particular way. People from India speak English a particular way. From China also. From Peru also. From Spain also. From France, yes, you can hear the French in a French person's English. And that is just the nature of the game. For example, when I speak Portuguese, and I will be speaking Portuguese in a video coming up soon, so watch out for that. But when I speak Portuguese, it's obvious that I'm not a native Portuguese speaker, but that doesn't stop me from having a meaningful conversation with somebody who is a native Portuguese speaker. So, I mean, we have to be realistic about our expectations when it comes to producing English. And we need to cultivate patience and curiosity when it comes to input, the source of our English. We need to be exposed to several Englishes so that we can identify it, more and more skillfully. And the final thing to say about listening for now, because I'll probably I just think it's such a fascinating skill that I might be posting another video on it. But for now, let us just talk about this habit that most of us have of just not listening, even in our native language, and interrupting people and wanting to speak ourselves, and not really, being open to whatever it is that is being said to us. And I think that this is where the main point is, that if we train ourselves to, rather than sit forward, and want to speak, but also not sit back and just switch off and allow our eyes to be entertained with a film, for example. So there's these two extremes where we're either wanting to speak or our brain is switched off. We need to be somewhere in the middle where we are in a relaxed mental state, but alert and engaged and, really listening to what the other is saying. Then we're practicing deep listening, and this is how we can truly transform our English. Having said that, if English is something you're struggling with, then I would love to help. I'm going to leave a link to my website below, and book a call if you're ready to start transforming your English and form part of a community that is supportive and there for you. Then go to the overview page and take a look at the program. If it sounds like something you'd like to be a part of, then I'm looking forward to speaking with you. And I'd like to invite you now to watch this video next, and I will see you in the next episode. See you soon.